And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. And listening to Maggie's story moments ago that the Boise police are going to be out in full force. Well, thank goodness they are. And Meridian Police and everybody else are going to be out in full force and doing their own thing. And we appreciate that. But when you hear those stories, and maybe you're like me, when you see the police, you know, you're driving along, you're listening to Glenn Beck or Sean Hannity or Dave Ramsey or Lars Larson or even this program, Kevin Miller, and you're really in tune. Maybe a caller gets you fired up, and you notice your foot going down on the accelerator a little bit more, and then you see them, and they've got their little radar gun. And what do? Just like little kids, we all slow down, right? We all slow down. And if we didn't have the police enforcing the speed limit, where would we be? Right? Where would we be? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Where would we be if we didn't have the police to enforce these laws? And when now we've got a news release out by the Transportation Department. Hey, don't pass on the right of the snowplows. And pardon me for being offensive, but it's before 8 a.m. Dummies, goofs, whatever you want to call them, silly little folks. Right? You don't pass on the right of the snowplows. You really shouldn't pass at the right at all. And maybe if we ever wrote a book, success in life is 100% common sense. Common sense when it comes to being on the roads. Now, if you were driving around yesterday, I had a chance to be out. For me, which was late till 6:30 last night. I had a late meeting with Jeff the Suit, and we were going over things. And when you have a meeting with your boss, he likes to do unusual things. So we were actually out in the cold, and we were reviewing what we can do to make the show better, and that's helped keep me awake. So from 5 to 6, we were actually out in the cold in a parking lot reviewing notes from this program. So then I'm on my way home, like many of you are. And how frustrating is it if you're driving on the connector, the freeway, or as I like to say, the highway, any of Chinden, Fairview, and last night on Cherry Lane or Fairview, whichever you prefer, I think it was Cherry, reduced down to one lane. What happened? Massive accident. Somebody got rear-ended. Somebody not paying attention. And it's crazy. In the summer, we have to worry about people driving excessively fast, driving crazy, on their phones, not paying attention. In the winter, we have to worry about the crazy weather, the black ice, and the same thing. Now, what does it say about us at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, that we need the police to be out in greater force, like in the summer when we have Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, to make sure we're clicking or ticketing. Click it or ticket. That we're not responsible enough to do it ourselves. The speed limit is there for one reason, so you honor the speed limit. Yet most of us don't, even though in some parts of the Treasure Valley it's 80 miles an hour. You can be going 70 and get past between Boise and Caldwell on most days. Now, look, as our great friend Tommy Alqua says, Kevin, you sound like Clint Eastwood of Gran Torino. The old man, get off my lawn. But really what it comes down to is common sense safety. And can that really be taught? Or do you agree that we need more police presence to enforce common sense? Common sense meaning, as lovely as our phones are, that we don't touch them while we're driving. And in reality, unless you're calling this program, do you really need to be talking on your phone? Now, this is where I disagree with a lot of folks. And my friend, Pat from Middleton, our friend, that pugnacious playboy, will say, there you go, Kevin Miller. You're not a conservative. You're a lib. When I'm about to repeat my advocacy for laws. You know, we just had a big leadership thing, and Victor Miller said to me last week at Idaho Chooses Life, said, are you going to cover Bedke versus Crane? Well, Bedke won. Now, if our friend Brent Crane had won, that'd be huge. But he didn't. I don't think people are in tune to that, but people are in tune to driving safely. So if you're a legislator, you think about it, well, what can we do? And we've already had the controversy concerning guns and the Second Amendment and the Castle Doctrine. Greg Pruitt does a great job with that, and all the other folks, the Real Idaho 3%ers, the Lightfoot Militia of Ada County. They do wonderful things promoting the Second Amendment. But something even bigger, I would say, is driver safety. When you're driving around and you see people, if you were listening last hour, R&R and I were talking, and he gave us this lovely deal on how you can not have your windows frosted up. And I'm in front of a young lady in a light blue car, and her windows are entirely frosted up. She drives out of her home, right here by the radio station. She's got the heat blaring, the defroster, but she can't see. So at the red light, she goes very, very slowly, and you can tell she can't see where she's driving. And then she's on her phone. Now, there are other places, and I'm not, look, I'm a fan of annexing Oregon, but on the other hand, I'm thinking to myself, they may have it right when it comes to laws. We have tried the distracted driving laws. We have tried the other laws on that. And is it really necessary? Is it really imposing on someone's freedom if you pass a hands-free law in the state? Has it come to that? When you are on the roads, do you agree with an increased police presence? I would say yes, because it increases safety. I would say yes, because of when it comes to safety, then that is something that we need to look at. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, when you think of being on the roads and people on their phones, like yesterday, where they got rear-ended, that is not a fun experience. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to be responsible for that. So why not take a look at expanding that distracted driving law, which, again, if many of you are being honest with me, you say to yourself, well, Kevin Miller, quite frankly, you're right. We need to make sure that people are turned over. And maybe it's a question we don't have enough police, even before everybody moved in, to make sure that we're obeying things. Maybe taxes need to go up, and I sound like a lib on this, but I'm thinking to myself, man, there's got to be a solution to this. So we either increase the police presence through a government grant, or we take a look at expanding laws and saying you shouldn't be on your phone at all. And I know police are busy. Heck, it's not fun to be out right now, whether you're working on State Street, whether you're building homes, whether you're delivering newspapers, whether you're delivery driving. By the way, big ups to the delivery folks. I hope they're getting a bunch of overtime for this. Thanks to Amazon.com. Crazy times. Anyway, you've heard enough of me. Let's go to Greg in Meridian, who joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Greg, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
A little cold, and you?
About the same. Hey, I just moved up here from Utah about 2.5 years ago. And when people ask me how I like it up here, I say I absolutely love it. And I brag about the drivers here in the Treasure Valley on how polite and courteous they are. And that is my biggest thing that you're talking about is I'm so worried that people like myself that come into the state don't adopt and adapt to the way that it's driven up here. It is so much safer. I was in Utah, a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't stand it. Can't wait to get back home But one thing that I've noticed that Idaho has done really, really well that I think can help, because I don't know the real solution, but the lights. Down in Utah, everybody runs the red light. And the reason is because the lights are so short and they're not timed with each other. Whereas here, they do a really, really good job of that. And so I think people lose patience because they miss 2 or 3 lights to get through. But just overall courtesy, I'm telling you, we have got a great place to live, and hopefully everybody adapts to the way of driving here and they don't bring their Utah driving and their California driving with them.
Well, I will tell you this about the Utah driving. Those people are crazy.
Absolutely. It's horrible. Horrible. My family tells me I've turned into a grandpa because of it, and I say, well, I'm a safe grandpa.
Well, but I mean, you just go to Salt Lake, and it's, oof, I don't know.
I can't stand to be there anymore.
Well, we do have people that run red lights here.
Occasionally. Not every single light like down there, though, but occasionally. Just hope everybody will use caution and courtesy, and we'll go a long way, I think.
So, would you agree that we need a hands-free law here?
I would. I mean, I got a kick out of it yesterday. I was driving to work and noticed a girl in the lane next to me. She was doing something that looked like she was on Instagram or something, and then she took a selfie of herself flipping someone off. And I thought, it's 7:15 in the morning. Why are we doing this at 7:15 in the morning? But a hands-free law probably would be good. I hate to say that because I'm a conservative like yourself, and I hate anybody taking that away. But the reality is there's just way too much distraction on the road. So
you're going to have to repeat that, Greg, one more time. You had a woman, a young woman, old woman. What was she doing?
So this young woman driving next to me yesterday, we were stopped at a stoplight, and at the stoplight, she took a selfie of herself flipping someone else off, and then I saw her send the text message, and I thought, it's 7:15 in the morning, and you're on the road, and that's what good you can do. It blew my mind.
Well, Greg, welcome to Idaho, and be careful on the roads.
Thanks so much.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. We do want to get your thoughts on the Miller proposal when it comes to keeping drivers safe. And here you have somebody who's sitting there minding his own business, listening to the radio show, and you have a young lady who, while she's driving, takes a picture of herself flipping somebody off and puts it on Instagram. Can anybody explain the value of that, the community benefit of that? And then we have, again, the Boise Police Department saying, look, we've got to put more people on the streets, quite frankly, because people are getting crazy. Well, let's do something about it. Like I said, we've had this whole texting and driving law, distracted driving. New laws don't make sense, but you go to Oregon, you go to other places, and you don't see people so distracted on their phones. Again, I saw somebody yesterday in a big truck swerving in and out. Why? Because they're on the phone. Is it that necessary to be connected? And what's the solution? Let's talk about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Republican Party, AB, and you've been talking with folks since the midterms where they dropped a lot of seats. There's no other way to put it. But as Jonathan Martin writes in the New York Times this morning, there's not a lot of signs of course correction inside the Republican Party moving forward.
Right. What Jonathan points out and what these Republicans are talking about privately is a new delineation, a realignment that makes them the party of white men. This is a huge loss, the fact that women are so repelled by Trump in the suburbs and moderate voters and independent voters. A majority is not made by your base alone. And they took a beating across the board except for largely white men.
And we'll get back to that. There we have it. Apparently white men aren't welcome anywhere. Good morning, Kevin. How would you like to wake up to that? Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio, talking about driving safety. Do we need more police presence? Do we need new laws? And whatever happened to common sense? Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Blair.
Hey, Kevin. How are you?
Not bad, brother. And you?
Oh, not too bad. Hey, I did want to give kudos to that last caller, especially for just giving a shout out to the Valley for the good drivers, because I do have to agree with him. We do in the majority drive pretty safe here. Now there there's one good thing that did come out of Utah. I think it was about 10 years ago. They did a study down at the University of Utah where they put college students on those driving simulators, and they did it. They did a control group, of course, which had no impediments. They had a group that had been drinking alcohol, and they put them on the simulators. And then they had a group that they had on cell phones, and guess what they found? They found that the ones who were on cell phones were just as impaired as the ones who were drunk.
I am not surprised by that.
Yeah, so I'm all in favor of a hands-free law, with the caveat that amateur radio operators be excluded from that, since the same rules don't apply. The same impediments, I should say, do not apply to them. So.
Well, what do you make of just how crazy it's gotten? And back to, we were talking about we're good drivers here compared to Utah, but in Utah, that's nuts there, number one. But number two, we have everybody running red lights and such.
Well, I think I agree with the other caller. I mean, I have family down in Utah, and I go down there, and he's right. The lights down there are not they're not timed well, and it does encourage people to, just for the sake of trying to get through traffic. It doesn't excuse them, but that's, they're trying to get somewhere, and it's really difficult for them to do that with the way that things are timed down there. So I think they could do a better job down there of their lighting, their traffic structures, but they also have a lot more people down there too. You've got they've got well over 1 million people in that valley, probably closer to 2. If you count the Salt Lake clear up to, Provo and all that area in there, they've probably got 2 or 2.5 million people in that area. And that one main highway, I think it's I-15, and that runs right through there is just a mess. Or is it I-5? I forget. Anyway, I'm just glad we're not to that point, but we still have that issue on Eagle. We don't have enough north-south corridors in the Boise Valley. I don't know how to address it, but we do need more north-south corridors in the Boise Valley.
Blair, thank you for listening and for calling in on KIDO Talk Radio.
Always listen to you, Kevin, every morning. Thanks for your show.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Traffic and weather together.
What is Channel 7's Eric Garrett?
And back to your phone calls. Let's go to Wyatt in Meridian with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Wyatt.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Wyatt, how are you?
Good. So I'm 14, and every day on my way to school, me and my mom listen to you.
Oh, that's very nice. We're honored by that, sir. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you to your mom for listening to us too.
Yeah, you're welcome. So right after you stopped the segment about people on their phone and texting, we saw somebody on their phone texting on the freeway, and then once we got a little bit ahead of them, one of the cops pulled her over, and she was like swerving in and out of the bike lane.
Oh, boy.
So I think the cops are doing their job. They're trying their best to do the job of keeping the roads safe today and every day.
Well, you think do we need more laws on this, or you just want to go with expanded police presence, sir?
I don't really know yet. Still. I don't know.
Well, there are a lot of things that I don't know.
Yep.
Anything else? Do you like the show? I mean, you're a young man. You're rolling. Do you like the show, or do you listen because your mom likes the show?
Kind of both. It's pretty interesting sometimes about all the things people do.
Well, I'm sure you've heard about this. I have to ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up, Wyatt?
Something involving science, because that's pretty much what my other brother's trying to do. Okay. And I enjoy it a lot.
I see. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us this morning? We sure appreciate your call.
Not at all. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, Wyatt, you call in anytime and say hello to your mom.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We go to Mike in Star with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I'm one of these guys driving the freeway every morning. commuting into work. I've got my hands-free device on right now, and I guess my answer to your question about whether or not we need a hands-free law or more police presence is if you pass the law without the police presence, it doesn't do any good.
Agreed. But it would make it easy. And the police presence is increased because the Boise Police Department has a grant. But obviously, it can't be very comforting driving in at this time and then at home, several hours later. Is it, or is it overblown here?
I don't know. The biggest distractions I see are, you've got people that get the call and they're digging their phone out of their pocket to try to get to it and see what it was. I think that causes problems. And I love seeing people holding their phone up in their hand on speaker mode, trying to talk into it and listen. Just hold it up to your ear and hear the person. I'd rather see them doing that so that they can actually hear, and instead of being even more distracted by not being able to concentrate or not concentrate, but not being able to understand the person they're talking to, right? I don't think that talking on the phone while you're driving is a big concern, but it's all the other things that go on with that. Are you trying to find the buttons? Are you trying to get that phone out? Are you trying to hear the person? So I lived in Oregon for 4 years. Got a ticket over there because I wasn't used to using a hands-free device, when I first moved over. And after that, when I got in the car and I was commuting home over there, had a half-hour, 45-minute commute. If I knew I needed to make some phone calls, I plugged in my headphones and, did what I needed to do. So I don't necessarily think that the talking part is the worst thing. You can talk to someone in the car with you or, different scenarios like that. Yeah, some people can be distracted, but for the most part, I would say most people are okay with that. But it's all the other little things that go along with it that are the distracting part or the dangerous part. I think hands-free helps with that. But at the same time, if you get a call and you're trying to dig your Bluetooth or your headphones out of your pocket so you can answer the call on your hands-free device, that's just as bad as answering it the other way.
Well, Mike, what's your solution then?
Like I said, I think it's common sense. I think if you get a phone call and your phone's not out and ready to answer it, wait till you're in a spot. My wife, she hates seeing people at intersections, doing something on their phone when they're stopping at a stoplight.
Right.
Like, that's great. I'd rather see them stop there waiting for the lights to turn green, and maybe have to have somebody honk at them while they're sending that text instead of driving along and trying to do it while they're actually in motion or, with other things going on around them. So I think like most things, it comes down to common sense.
Well, hopefully they'll get that connection to the highway to Star soon enough for you.
Yeah, one of the other callers mentioned about north-south corridors. I lived out here when Eagle Road was a 2-lane country road, and it was great when they put it in at 5 lanes, and then they the commercial developments came around and they plugged them all straight into the highway and screwed the dang thing up. I think as much as the highway district tries to plan things and get things done, I think our developers around those things screw them up just as much as anybody else does. So,
Mike, thank you for the call. We appreciate it, brother.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Have a great day. We'll see you at the Merc. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Sorry we made you wait. Pete from Mountain Home joining us on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Morning, Kevin. I'm an old guy, okay? I can remember, and I know this is going to be a shock to you, most of you younger folks out there. There was no such thing as cell phones back when I was first learning how to drive. I mean, it was shocking. You got in the car, you had no way to communicate. And based on 70-some years now, I can tell people that, and I know this will be a shock, you can drive and you can still live when you turn your cell phone off. And just as an experiment, sometime today, get in your car and try turning the cell phone off. And then you won't have to worry about answering it when it rings, and you won't have to worry about being distracted. I know your heart may start beating extremely fast. You may get really, really short of breath at being out of contact for more than half a second or so. But you trust me, you can live with the cell phone turned off.
Well, what do you make of that? You've come from a different generation, but you have people young and old now that you would think that their phones are surgically attached to them, and that maybe that'll be coming soon.
Oh, I go to restaurants and I see couples that I assume are in some sort of relationship, married or whatever, and one of them is talking on the phone and the other one is texting, and I'm thinking, why don't you guys get separate tables? I mean, it's just, it's like the phone is your life suddenly.
Well, here's the weird thing, and it was a couple years ago. I think I was flirting with the city of Salt Lake. You know, like when you go somewhere and you go, hey, this is a pretty good place. Now, Pete, I didn't really go to Salt Lake a lot. I just went to like this Italian restaurant, and you know, judging by how I've described myself, that's not hard to believe. So I'm at this Italian restaurant with Mrs. Miller, and I'm sitting across, and there's a family of about, no kidding, 8 people, and every one of them had a phone, and every one of them was texting each other. Now, it's kind of funny here that when you're in meetings, you have people that are sitting next to each other across the table. They're texting each other as people are talking, and you're going,
oh yeah, I've seen cases where somebody is texting somebody sitting or doing something 50 or 100 feet away when they can just walk over and talk to them. It's like the people in the summer that leave the kids in the car, right, and the kid dies from excessive heat. The way to prevent that is put your cell phone back in the back seat with the kid, because they'll never forget their cell phone.
Right.
It amazes me. People walking through the supermarket with the phone glued to their ear. I mean, is it possible for people to live without one? Yes, it is. You can do it, believe me.
Well, especially when you're on the roads.
Yeah, just try the off button. Just try it for 10 minutes a day and see. I mean, I know it'll be tough. Like I said, your heart rate will go way up and you might get a little short of breath, but just try it for 10 minutes.
Pete,
no sarcasm at all there.
You know something? We love the sarcasm.
Alternatively, okay, could we follow the example? There's a college back in Michigan that has decided the way to deal with active shooters is they're issuing hockey pucks to all the students and faculty.
You know, we covered that. I don't know if you caught us when we were covering that, but yeah, yeah.
Well, I want to take that wonderful idea of theirs,
right,
and make it legal in Idaho so I can throw a hockey puck at anybody I see on a cell phone in a car.
Well, that's only self-defense, Pete. Come on.
Well, they could, if they're on a cell phone in a car, it is self-defense.
Huh.
You know, just let me check a cell phone at them. Or not a cell phone, I'm sorry. A hockey puck. A hockey puck, you know, it probably won't actually break their window or anything, but it might wake them up.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Kevin. And like I said, I know it'll be a shock to you young folks, but you can live without your cell phone turned on.
Crazy. How did the pioneers get by without a cell phone?
Oh, it was tough, man. All those months across the prairie without talking to each other or texting.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Pete.
You bet.
All right. Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, Kevin Miller in the morning. So we are talking about driver safety. In addition to that, the comments of A.B. Stoddard, let's get back. She's concerned that there are too many white men in the Republican Party. Let's take a listen.
A.B., and you've been talking with folks since the midterms where they dropped a lot of seats. There's no other way to put it. But as Jonathan Martin writes in the New York Times this morning, there's not a lot of signs of course correction inside the Republican Party moving forward.
Right. What Jonathan points out and what these Republicans are talking about privately is a new delineation, a realignment that makes them the party of white men. This is a huge loss, the fact that women are so repelled by Trump in the suburbs and moderate voters and independent voters. A majority is not made by your base alone. And they took a beating across the board except for largely white men. The new conference, without their 40 either retired colleagues or defeated colleagues, is much more Trumpian and silent on this question. So they can't have a debate about a course correction, even though they know that this is where the party is headed. It's an amazing moment. It's like alcoholic children. You just laugh of an alcoholic parent. You keep laughing and you hide in your bedroom when it gets real.
You know what I always loved about Bob Novak, and if you don't know who Bob Novak was, he was a brilliant writer. They called him the Prince of Darkness. In fact, I think his book is called The Prince of Darkness because he wanted to always ask the tough questions. And before the internet, he had this newsletter with Raleigh Evans, and it was Evans and Novak. And then Bob Novak wrote on Crossfire, and one of the great honors of my career is when he described my interview with Pat Buchanan as, New Hampshire's conservative talk show, blah, 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 when we were interviewing Buchanan back in 96, Patrick. And Bob Novak always loved it when liberals or progressives would give Republicans advice. And he was so surly, so sarcastic. I don't know if that would work today. I so wish that we could get back to the Bob Novaks because he goes, well, you, head of the Democratic Party, certainly you have the best interest of the Republican Party, so they should listen to you. And my example to A.B. Stoddard is, when are we going to get rid of this racism against white men? Really, that's what it is. And the poor kids today, they've been indoctrinated that Columbus is bad. We're going to have symposiums on whiteness. Look at the country that was created by predominantly white men, where you have the freedom to criticize and to say unreal, goofy things. And here you have A.B. Stoddard saying the Republican Party, it's all about white men. They're gone. How did the diversity outreach work for John McCain? How did Mitt Romney's outreach work? Donald Trump won. Donald Trump has that 40 or 50%. And again, I don't think it's 40%. I think it's over 50% of Americans that back Donald Trump. Well, people in the suburbs don't like him. They like those tax cuts. But I always love it when progressives give Republicans advice. And we covered this before when we were talking about George Bush. The libs, the DLL, the dirty little libs, the devious little libs. Hey, Bush, you need to compromise. Go back on your pledge. Don't worry, we got your back. And how'd that work out for President Bush? Donald Trump, not so fast, my friend. That's what he says. It's been a while. We go to Brian in Nampa on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Kevin. I have to apologize. I have a genetic illness. It's complicated, and I was out for a while. I haven't been working for about 3 months, and with the complications with it, I didn't feel like talking or,
I'm sorry to hear that, Brian.
To you occasionally, but it's a hard thing to deal with, and it's just family genetics. Anyway, the phone thing, I want to give people a different idea. Everybody's scared of guns, right? We talk about guns a lot, but I put the phone thing this way. If you had a gun in your hand, or a cop or a SWAT team, would you want him talking on the phone or texting while he had that gun in his hand? The obviously answer is no. You want him to pay attention to where he's pointing that thing and what he's doing with it. And what people just don't get is a car is more dangerous than a gun. It does more foot-pounds per square inch than any gun out there. It's more deadly than a machine gun, a 50 cal, you name it. So when you are talking on the phone, and especially when you're texting, I know there's the GPS on the phone. I use them, but it's kind of something you just glance at real quick. And if you do, you better be aware of your surroundings before you do that. Like, give yourself lots of lead time, plan ahead, do that kind of stuff, because it's more dangerous than a gun in your hand. And, I don't agree with everything the last caller talked about. People, if they're at the restaurant and they want to text each other, great. But when you're driving a car, put the dang phone down. If you need to, turn the radio off. With my condition that I have, I didn't even feel like driving for a few months. I knew I was unsafe to drive, so I didn't drive. But that's just kind of how I feel about it. And Kevin, you have to question a long time ago, and I wasn't feeling well when you asked it. You said, is a shotgun like an assault weapon? Well, I don't believe in assault weapons, but I just want to give everybody a little wake-up call here. During World War II, the Germans tried to go and say, these dang Americans can't use these shotguns anymore because they're too deadly. Now, we had all kinds of machine guns. We had all kinds of automatic weapons back in World War II when we were fighting the Germans. And the ones they tried to go to the other countries and say, these Americans need to stop using it because it's unfair, was a shotgun with buckshot in it. So just a little reality check there when somebody says, you know, a weapon of war. A shotgun was what the Germans used or we used on the Germans that they didn't like. Anyway, got any questions for me?
I'm going to put you in my prayers, Brian.
Yeah, and if you ever want to know why I know so much about guns, John Browning's mother was a Clark. I'm a Clark. It's in the blood. So if you have any questions, give me a call.
Thank you, Brian. Take care.
You bet. Bye.
Bye-bye. Hope he feels better. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Sure appreciate the support, Sean Hannity. And remember, our great friend Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, what a great way to go home on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And talking about a few things, whether it's driver safety, increased Boise police presence. And like I said, if you're looking to do something for Toys for Tots and you live near or work near a fire department, a Boise Fire Department station, you can drop off any of your unwrapped toys there. Or if you want to donate to the Idaho Food Bank, you can do that as well. They're looking for canned foods and stuff. More details on KIDOTalkRadio.com. Traffic and weather together.
7's Eric Everett.
No, thank you very much, Larry. We appreciate it. Sure appreciate everybody listening. And by the way, if you miss any of our commentaries, our calls, or anything else, you can always go to our website, KIDOTalkRadio.com, and check those out. Commercial-free, spot-free. You will love them, and we appreciate Ray and I putting those up. Yesterday's Miller Minute, and I talked about this at the beginning of last hour. Yesterday's Miller Minute, we talked about George Bush's commitment to public service, and that's a similar commitment that we have here in Idaho. Let's take a listen.
To solve our country's social problems, we need people, we need every individual to respond to the problems right around them. And when each American is no longer willing to accept that someone on their street or someone on their town is homeless or jobless or friendless, then that's when we will truly renew America, when everybody understands that they're going to help their neighbor.
Isn't that what we do here? Not only during the giving season, but all year round with the Idaho volunteer efforts that just simply astound most people in other states.
For a better America, for an endless, enduring dream and 1,000 points of light. This is my mission, and I will complete it.
There we have it, honoring those that are selfless. God bless you, George Bush. Kevin Miller in the morning on Repeat After Me, folks, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Your home for Fox News now.